gonna start, family. We're gonna do the toast in a minute, but we're gonna start off. With Brother Bonotchi. He's doing his opening, so I'll come back here and do the toast in a second.
You do not want to join the Marine Corps.
Oh God!
When I stepped out that plane, he joined. He got drafted.
No, that's what he's saying. And I wanted to join.
And
they wouldn't let me.
The moment I stepped off of that the plane in the boot camp, I knew I had made the wrong decision. I had never went through anything like that. You know, as a 19-year-old kid, you used to do what you want to do. No, the Marine Corps put an end to that. But what the Marine Corps gave me was personal discipline. So that if I make up my mind I'm going to do something, it's done. It's not going to happen. It's done. You can rest assured of that, right? So I'm giving you some of this background because, you know, first off, you should know who, you know, is standing up and speaking to you, right? Okay. So this next part, hopefully, I will still have friends in here, but my experience with my lifestyle, one reason I was able to learn this language was because I was able to spend a hell of a lot of time studying, right? I was with a group who were academically unprepared to learn this language. Egyptian hieroglyphics, as it's called by white folks, they don't let their people learn it. You have to have an advanced degree and almost chosen to get into a school so that you can become an Egyptologist to learn this language, right?
Thank you.
So, me and my group, we studied this language for 10 years with Dr. Theophilo Benga, one of the world's most greatest intellects, and Dr. Gye-Nyame, who is a language genius. She teaches and speaks Japanese, Chinese, Hebrew, and the Bonotchi. Right? Benga, he's a specialist in ancient languages. So all ancient languages, Benga speaks Greek, Hebrew, the Semitic language, the cuneiform, and of course the Bonotchi. Now, so we studied with these individuals, right? We studied for 10 years. We met twice a week. We met on Monday, we met on Tuesdays and Thursdays, right? Now, on Tuesdays, we started studying because everybody worked. So we was like, well, what time can we study? We studied from 11 o'clock at night until 1 in the morning. Then we said that wasn't long enough. We went and we studied from 11 o'clock at night until 6 in the morning. Then on Thursdays, we studied from 11 o'clock in the morning until 3. Right? We did this every week for 10 years. People who knew us, they thought we were nuts. Because, you know, black people, you start something and 5 minutes later you through, right? Now, why are we able to spend these amount of hours doing this, right? Because I was a medical marijuana distributor before it was called medical marijuana. It was still now.
Welcome aboard.
Let me say this, before the Europeans called it that. Because see, we call it the Kali weed, the healing of the nation. We understood that like one of our problems as revolutionaries is that you give all of our time and creativity to white folks. So when I wasn't in school, which I hated, I read, I have read every black scholar there is. If he was an African Center scholar, not only did I read them, I met them, right? With the money that we made, that's why we were able to hire Obenga. We paid Theophilo Benga a tremendous amount of money. That was one reason he hung with us, because he know that like when he came to Detroit, he was going to leave with his pockets full of money. Right? But we didn't do this selfishly. We took our money and we invested into the black community so that Obenga we brought in scholars from the African continent because we had houses that we bought. So we could put these scholars and people, when they came, we could house them so that they didn't have to put what? Their money in hotels, right? They had personal houses that they could go to. When we studied Yoruba, we brought a Yoruba priest to Detroit and we housed him there. He was there for, well, let's see, off and on for years, right? But this is the type of education that we don't give our kids. We tell our kids, go to school. For what? We found out that, like, listen, you can do more with your money if you're independent thinking. So that one of the problems now, with that said, what eventually happened, studying this language saved my life. Two of our groups, well, let's see, two members of our group got busted by the feds, right? So one of my partners spent 17 years. He just got out of jail. He spent 17 years, and he's one of the most brilliant Metanetra scholars there is. When he was in the pen, he taught Metanetra. For myself, when I got busted, interesting. Put your money in books. The feds searched every door, every drawer in my house. Turned it out. They didn't touch one book. Now my house is like a library because I put my money in books. You know, I bought books. And if I put my money in the book, I would still have it because they took all of my money. But I'm sitting there, look at them, and I say, they're like, how you walk into a house full of books?
And not touch.
I mean, my house is like a library. Books everywhere. They didn't touch one book. Kitchen drawers, every drawer, cabinets, everything turned out, turned over, you know, looking for contraband. Not one book. So they don't even associate us with knowledge, you know? So they asked me, they said, listen, young man, we don't have evidence of you filing income taxes for over 30 years. I supported myself for 30 years without filing income taxes. And so I was lucky. I won't go into the details, but the feds didn't have a case against me, right? But, you know, listen, I don't have any type of work history. I haven't worked since I was a teenager, officially, right? So this is how this language saved my life. By this point, I studied the language and have produced some books so that once the feds retired me off the streets, I taught Metanetra in African Center schools in Detroit for the next 7 years. So this language, when folks ask me, what can you do? It's up to you. The language itself is a tool, but it's a magical tool if you take the time to use it correctly. So, I repeat, Metanetra has, you know, it's my life.
Thank you.
So that's some of the background. I think some of the ASCAC folks really didn't know. To add a note to that, my first instructor of Metanetra, he met with us one day. We had a big group in Detroit. There were over 50 people studying this language. Maïd said that he had rumors that he was associated with drug dealers in Detroit. So he told the 3 of us, well, actually 4 of us, that he could no longer have us as students. When Obenga came to Detroit, people from around the country met with him and told him, do not hang out with them guys in Detroit, you will get in trouble. He told us that, you know, afterwards, he said that, you know, folks tried to warn me not to associate. I'm happy I didn't listen. He said, other folks, you know, they talk about Obenga. They have Obenga here, Obenga speak. He said, you guys, when I come to Detroit, you pay me and all we do is study. He said, I've never met anybody. He said, you guys don't even eat. Because we were into Yoruba and Akan studies at the same time. So we were going through these fasting
rituals in a kind. So we had Obenga in, of course we wasn't eating, we forgot. So he was upset, he like, listen, we've been studying Metanetia since 9 o'clock, it's 3 o'clock. He said, you haven't fed me. We was like, oh wow, we forgot, you know. So this, learning this language has been an adventure. It's been a life adventure, and we have to find ways for our youngsters, because there are a lot of youth like me who hate school. I hated school with a passion, but I love learning. So what do you do with a child like that? You know, my parents didn't know what to do with me. What saved me was Malcolm X, because Malcolm, reading him, I was taught to like, hold up. Simply because you're not in school don't mean that you don't educate yourself. So, Malcolm X and scholars like that is who we have to show our youth so that they have some direction. Because what? We tell them what? Go to school for what? To get a job. Right. To be a flunky for white people. No. Our jobs prevent us from being intellectual revolutionaries. So like this is something that we ought to strive for.
I have a question from the internet. Brother Junior asks, Elder, do you think the Euro, or as I call them, the West Asians, and the rest of the world will ever return Egypt or Kemetic African artifacts back to the motherland?
Why should they? No. Why should they?
Brother Junior, he said, why should they? He watching you right now, live.
Why should they? Because see, you are right. You putting it on them, and if you expect for them to do anything for you, then you are mistaken. Right. So this is being streamed. You didn't tell me that.
Well, I was gonna do one show back here, but you started talking.
It's fine. I just didn't know. But it's fine. All of this is on the public record, as they say. Yeah, but okay. The problem is not what they gonna do. The problem is what we gonna do. Exactly. And the problem is what we are not doing. So that like I don't want anything from them. I have no demands on the European. My demands is on us. When we get our stuff straight, the Europeans will be straight because they will have to get in line. We're the majority. If we get our hair straight, they'll have to get in line. So my demands is on us. It's what we have to do. Because, hey, look, there should be no misunderstanding about the Europeans. These are questions we have to stop asking. What they gonna do and what all of this stuff. We know what they're gonna do. They have been consistent. Our problem is with us. Until we realize that our problem is with these nigger factories. They produce niggers. And until we can shut them down and, put some information into our children that doesn't make them dependent upon white people. Because right now, everything we do is depending upon them. I find it interesting that the rapper Jay-Z, right? So he was negotiating with the NFL. And apparently he was, because I don't know, I can only say apparently, this young man, he might know, more exact. But apparently he told the youth that they should cut their hair, cut the braids, and cut them dreads so you can get a job. And see, that's the type of subservient attitude that's, that's like pushed on us that we don't challenge. It seems like that's a good idea because we get most of our understanding from stuff from white people. We listen to the news, and okay, I find it interesting that this whole Trump thing, right? Nobody's looking at it from our perspective. Even the black folks on TV is looking at it from a white folks' perspective. Nobody is saying this dude is a racist. Well, excuse me. He is the overt racist because all of them are racist. But he's the overt racist. They won't say that. They come up with all this crazy. He's a liar. All this. Look. So, but nobody is calling it from our perspective. Everybody is talking about the world, talking about this situation from a white person's perspective. Hell, why? Because we're educated to be white. These nigger factories they're nigger factories because they teach you to be subservient to white. So that I had a handout. You had a handout?
I'll give them
So I have a handout. Could you read that handout?
It's in here.
No. I'm from yesterday. That questionnaire.
Oh, the questionnaire.
All right.
Okay. Right here.
So that information about, is that right? Jay-Z? You don't know, okay. That's a good thing.
They putting a bunch of stuff out about Jay-Z supposedly said.
A lot of people got them.
Okay,
You got one.
this says,
Oh, you gave it back to me?
Yeah.
list any scientific accomplishments that you know of that were attributed to or began in Africa. Okay, and somebody put all major scientific investigations like time, space, and infinity began in Africa. But the second part was, where did you learn or how did you attain this information? They left that blank.
You want me to fill it in now?
Yeah, that's the whole point. It's a questionnaire. Because my point is this. Most of the information, or I should say all the information you get from the academy and from the West is going to be negative in terms of Africa and black people.
125th Street.
So that if you come across any positive information, you probably didn't get that information from any type, from educational source. So when I went back to school, I found it interesting because they have made it such that racism is not even a subject in school anymore. When they talk about it, they talk about it in a manner that's so benign until people don't even see it as evil because it's taught by white people. So I found it interesting. I took a class called Environmental Science, and they talked about the third world. They even had a formula that they say that this formula is how a third world nation can rise out of third world status. You know, that's a lie. There's no such thing. You know?
Definitely.
Now, but I found it interesting that the class, the Berlin Conference, was never mentioned. They never said that in the class. They never detailed how the Europeans got together. What in 1777 or something like that. They got together and divided up the African continent like a cake. Now this was after they had gone back into the African continent. Africa had been weakened by slavery. The Europeans, after conquering the continent, went back into Africa 100 years later, and then they divided up the spoils because after the slave trade, the African continent was, it was no longer unified in any way. So they could just go in without the under mass opposition that they had faced during slavery, during the enslavement period. And that's something else that we need to have more understanding of. Because our understanding of our enslavement comes from Europeans, we really have no understanding of it. Every black child should read the slave narrative. How do we have slavery in the U.S. lasted hundreds of years. There are massive records of it. And we don't demand that our children read the slave narrative. That means you don't understand your history. So I find it interesting, once again, it comes back to food, right? So we're all into nutrition and nutritional value. Have any of you ever checked out what the enslaved Africans ate? Well, then you know that nutrition is a myth. It's a myth.
Yeah, because they were big and strong.
Read Frederick Douglass. He will tell you that, like, listen, they got what, like a pound of fish for a month. That's what it had to last you. You know, he tells you to, and also when you read the slave narrative, there is a common theme. The people was always hungry.
Always hungry.
read all of it. That was their main thing. We hungry. They don't feed us. Now, so they made these people work to death and didn't feed them. But what about all this nutrition? Now we're worried about nutrition. Okay, that's lower nutritional value. You shouldn't be eating that. And see, this whole nutrition thing, listen, if nutrition was that important, you would be born with a calculator, not taste buds. But we don't look at that. So white people tell us that, okay, you got to notice the nutritional value of things. So they got us going around looking at packages and examining. Man, look, you got to realize these people are not concerned with health. They're concerned with making money.
That's right.
So they put these labels on packages, not for health concerns, to convince the buyer that this is what you should buy. So why don't we, but we don't analyze our society like that. No black person. Matter of fact, we have, what's the other, IT, not IT. See, I don't know these folks' names. But anyway, he comes on the commercial talking about the internet and, what it's the finest, and it's like that, hold up. We know that facial recognition is biased because it's invented by white folks. That means that the internet is also biased because it's invented by white folks. So instead of promoting all of this technology for folks, especially black people, they should be trying to make us aware that, like, they use this technology against us, and we are just lapping it up like it's a good thing. One of my last points. Okay. DNA, right? They tell people, give me your DNA and I will tell you where you come from. Now, but they don't tell you that they banking this DNA. And it's going to be, they're going to make big money because DNA is the next big thing for a whole lot of stuff that they're doing. Well, they telling you that, okay, but your DNA is safe with us. We're not going to use it. You believe that because they say it? On top of that, right? They have sold us something that they cannot prove. There's no way that they can prove that the DNA ancestor of this body is you. In any way. They can't prove that. Now think about what I'm saying, because this is something that people really don't get or think about. There's no way that they can prove, because of course the DNA is the protein, the protein of your body, the physical makeup of your body. That ain't you, it's your body. So there's no way that they can prove. Now, the body definitely had a DNA ancestor, but they can't prove that the consciousness was me that was connected to that DNA ancestor. Because if that's the case, they're saying that you are tied to one body and one consciousness all throughout eternity. That don't make no damn sense. It can't, it can't be. Just think about that. It cannot be. Reality can't work like that. So, but once again, nobody has sat down and questioned that. We just lap it up like it's real. Well, they say that I come from, Central Africa. Your body comes from there. Your consciousness comes from the universe. Your consciousness is everywhere, it's everything. So that as a consciousness, you probably have to go through every species there is in terms of evolutionary, right? Well, that means that I can't have one body. It's totally impossible. But that's because we have been taught that there's one body. We have been taught that there's one God, one world, one reality, and all that stuff is nonsense. What they call the universe, scientists even now are starting to call it the multiverse. Because there's no one like they think of it. The oneness is in everything is of the same stuff. That's the oneness. But outside of that, it's diversity. So those are some of the things I like to, put into your brain and hopefully help you to think about. Some of these ideas are things that we need so that we can get in between the Europeans' ideas. Because right now they have us mentally enslaved, and we don't see the critique of their worldview in the public. So that, we used to have it all the time because we had black nationalists who were experts at getting at our intellectual enslavement, but we have pretty much let that information slide by. So hopefully this short talk and introduction to myself has helped to enlighten some of y'all about some of the things we should do and some of the things that we can do.
One of the things, you and Kwame, all our people, that I tutor as my second half of my life. And recently I had an experience, and what you were talking about made me think about it. With a young man I've been working with since the summer. We work on reading and math and a whole bunch of different stuff. But during the Black History time, he was reading a really good article on Emmett Till.
Emmett Till.
Yes. And he's only eighth grade, so he's 13-ish. And he was reading it. It just pierced him.
Yeah.
I could tell by, he said, I said, had you heard of him before? He said, yeah, sort of. My mom had said something. He said, but he may not have even been whistling at that girl.
Exactly.
So we talked. I said, how at 13 you talk to your friends and you make things bigger than they really are? I said, that could have been a conversation he was having. And he said, when they brought his body back, I said, yes, Mom left the cat because she wanted people to see what had happened to her. And he said, do you think that kind of stuff? I said, yes. Those things still happen.
Right.
Still exist. It's my responsibility and yours and your mom and dad to try and prepare you to deal with some of these things. So what I try and do with him now is pick books and stories for him to read that enlighten. And slave narratives I had not thought about. But I think he's old enough to appreciate them. So right now we're focusing on what he has to read for school. So we'll get to the point where I can pick something for him to read.
It's interesting that, so now we have this whole thing of the so-called Me Too movement, right? And I find it's very interesting. Because once again, it shows the problem of us not knowing our history. The Me Too movement is founded on the fact that some white women were abused, right? Well, hell, black women during enslavement had no control over their body whatsoever. And we have lost those stories. We have lost the stories of how they used to bring white boys to black women to be broken in. I mean, as a regular, practice. So, we have been sexual tools of slaves. And another thing that's been overlooked about enslavement. Enslavement was also sexual enslavement on both genders. And we have just ignored that. We see how these folks are sexually. But we let them slide during slavery, so we don't even understand the sexual abuse, especially experienced by our women. So that we have a whole movement where they just push aside. We have black women too, who push aside their own historical experiences and adapt those of white women and support this whole, Me Too movement. And the sister's not here too. One of the most clearest voices of women who speak against this is, Alethea Watkins. Now she was one of the students of Dr. Right, exactly. She's one of the clearest women on there. And she calls feminism white supremacy and drag. That's the best. I mean, that's the best definition for feminism. Now in school, I used to piss off people. I mean, because I would tell them like, because see, feminism in schools, it accepted. It's the new, if you are feminist or you support feminist philosophy, that make you a progressive thinker. I used to tell them, nope. Feminism is white supremacy in a dress. And because they had never heard that before, it would stop them cold. Because they was like, well, damn, I never thought about that. Now, some of the white women tried to, of course, affront that, right? But if you know your history, they can't. All you have to do, examine the history of some of the early women who formed some clubs. During the 1900s, black people were reading, and they had reading clubs, especially black women. Black women were some of the leaders in this area, right? So Josephine St. Marie Ruffin was one. And read about her experiences with the white women. And you're going to find that like all of them, what's it?
Sojourner?
No, I was trying to think of the white woman movement leader of that time. Stanton, the glorious, Steiner? Steiner she's a new one, but this was one of Stanton, Elizabeth Stanton. She was one of the white founders of the women's movement, and her and there's another one. Susan B. Anthony. Read about them. Listen. They got into an argument and debate with the black women, especially with Ida B. Wells, because they told her that, like, listen, you're too concerned with the men of your race, and so they told her, they told all the white women, we stand with our men. Now you will find that feminists, they stand with white women because they don't know this history. So in school, the sisters in the class didn't know this history. So what I found in school, our children go to school at such an intellectual disadvantage until they sit in school feeling stupid. They don't know how to challenge the instructor. So I noticed that a lot of times in school, when the professor said something, they would look over at me. Because they know you're going to have something to say about that. And they was right, I always did. Always did. But I repeat, we send our kids to school without the intellectual, emotional support that they need. And it's simple. Before they go to school, give them Malcolm X when they read. They'd be straight. That one book would have their brain straight. Because in there, he has enough in there to make you suspicious of white people and their intentions. And that's what you need. There was somebody that's not here, but there was, when we were at the dinner, they were saying that they taught their children to question everything, including themselves, Kimber. And I told them that, like, well, that's a little far. You question everybody, but not me and your dad and your mama. Those are two people you don't question. Everybody else, you question. I don't care what they say, you question them. That's a healthy thing to do, especially in this society. You should definitely tell your children to be skeptical and question everybody. Yes.
Two things. One, the slave narratives are now on Google Music, where you could listen to the actual recordings.
Okay. Now, those are those might be different. They went back. They did those recordings separately and at a different time.
Okay.
If they're the same thing, they have a lot of white scholars went back and they recorded black people who had been enslaved. And what they found was that some of those black people didn't tell those white people the real story because they were still apprehensive. Mm-hmm. They still were smart enough to be apprehensive of white folks.
Right.
So even though they came with NPR money and all of this stuff, they still were skeptical because they understood that, like, hold up, We don't know how this information is, will be used.
So could you give titles? So we can start doing it. And then also, I got another question because I got to go out here.
Okay.
Sister Regina, she says, peace. I'm looking for a comedic word concept for philanthropy. That's a Greek word, but I believe the concept is ours. So I'd love to find a more original nomenclature for the term of philanthropy. This is something close that you can give.
No, and this is why.
Uh-oh.
We have to stop looking for European ideas into our culture. What she has to do is research and do some history and find out the practice and not the name of the practice, and find out what the practice was. One problem we have in terms of understanding words, and I'm going to try, I think I'm going to deal with some of this in my lecture, is that we look for the meaning of words. That doesn't work. And the example I used yesterday is the perfect example. Regardless of what democracy means, it means very little. What you have to, in order to understand democracy, you can't understand its meaning. You can't understand its meaning. You have to understand how democracy functions. So in terms of words, it's more important that you understand how a word functions and how that word is represented in nature rather than what the word means. Because I repeat, you can go to a dictionary and look up democracy all day, and you will not find a meaning that actually fits how democracy functions. Because democracy functions as a tool of white supremacy. But you don't find it as part of the definition of democracy. But democracy was invented and used by these white people as a tool of domination and control. So unless you have that definition, which democracy, the definition of it in the book will not fit. So that's a problem that we have to understand, that that Europeans use words in a particular manner. Regardless of what the word means, it will function to promote their worldview and their attitudes towards everybody else.
Not on words, but because I stepped out of it. One of the things I found that was helpful for me, that I don't think occurs too much anymore, is conversation as a family. When I grew up, and I grew up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, we all had to eat together at night, no matter what. You had to eat together. And the adults talked about white people like dogs. In no uncertain terms. They let you know, like a couple of my aunts were maids in their homes. And they would talk about if the white people didn't have the money, they might give you food or give you clothes as payment. Just all kinds of things. They made you know, so by the time you got out there, you had the feeling that you were always suspect and always looking at them with a jaundiced eye. Whereas I don't know if our children view them from that perspective anymore.
Because they have come up with the concept of reverse racism.
I've been told that by young people.
And it's like,
racist?
Well, now think about it, right? Think about it. If racism is bad, reverse racism has to be good. But they use tricky language. They're gonna tell you, well, you a reverse racist. Well, that's good. If racism is bad, reverse racism, just by the nature of word usage, means it has to be good.
No, we try to. No, not me.
But right now, we said, no, I'm not. No. Not me.
Yeah.
But once again, we don't, white people have made us so that we don't think in our own, right? We don't think.
That's the first time they did that too, because they did it in the 60s, and Malcolm pointed that out.
Exactly.
So it only goes to show what they use once that don't work, they go back to it later on.
Yeah, right, exactly. But they will use something. That's the point. They always got a game going on.
Oh, okay, always got it.
So now it's just like they are fair, and racism is something that was made up by other sick white people, and we have some good white people who are not racist now. So that's the myth now. Well, I guess if we don't have any more questions or comments, that's it for this session.
Well, a quick comment is that I know one of the more difficult problems that Elder Alona and I face in trying to come to understand the language is that because we've been immersed in this Western culture, that there's a lot of ideas that we bring from the Western culture and try to impose upon the Meta Nature. And that goes back to what, addressing what the question that Sister Regina was asking.
Excellent, right.
So part of it is, again, make sure, and several of our scholars, remind us of this, but we really, when we're having a conversation, we must be clear on what the context is.
Yes.
Because that will help you to determine what the meaning of the word is. Not because you've gone to Webster or any of the other ones, but the context in which you find the word and how it's being used will give you all the information you need to understand it from the African perspective.
One last thing. So please, from here on out, do not use the term civil rights movement. This is one of the most evilest terms they have given us, because they label a whole generation wrong. Black nationalism and black consciousness were the thought form, the social constructs that moved the youth. It was not civil rights. So by them labeling the whole 60s as the civil rights movement, you miss out on the intellectual power of black power. Black power scared white people to death. That term made them shit their pants. You will find that white people will be nice to you and think that they like you, but the moment that you call yourself a black nationalist, it's like a response happens that they cannot control, and they will see you as the enemy. Because they know that, he see me as the enemy. So their response, look at Trump. Everything Trump calls somebody else is him. This is how they do. He's just showing you the sickness, in a prime way. But this is what they do. So the minute you call yourself a black nationalist, they're gonna say, oh shit, he see me as an enemy. And they're gonna see you that way. Now they already see that way, but then they know that you're conscious. You're trouble. But when you get up and start talking about integration and civil rights, they know they got you. Because you're going to focus on philosophers who don't empower you. You're going to focus on philosophers who give you information that make you subservient intellectually and emotionally to white people. So I repeat, we need to bring black nationalism and the idea of black power back. So when we talk about the 60s, we should call it the Black Consciousness Movement, the Black Consciousness Time, or Black Power or Black Nationalism. But we got to throw out the civil rights. Malcolm said it best. We're not in a civil rights situation. Our problem is human rights. We're not even looked at as human. Oh, one thing I'm going to show the next group. So there's a video during one of the Super Bowls where they highlight the Declaration of Independence. And they went through and they read it. And they had all these NFL superstars, Jim Brown, and all of them, talking about the Declaration of Independence and how it says all men are created equal. Yeah, right. They weren't talking about you because they didn't see you as human.
Right.
Context is everything.
Right, context, everything. So they've been talking about, talking about the Declaration of Independence. All of the majority of the signers of Declaration of Independence were slaveholders.
Oh, come on now.
So that when they talk about all men are created equal, they're true
They talking about-
because they don't see you as being human.
That's right. They ain't talking about that.
So they're like, why? This is a type of mindset that we have to instill in our youth so that they don't let these word games just make them totally subservient to white people.
That's right. That's right.
So this time I am ending it. I think.
So my answer was the bookstore on the corner of 125th Street and 7th Avenue. I used to go there. The thing was with the pictures that were out front, and then
In New York,
in Harlem.
was that?
Or if Yankee knows the name of it.
Yeah, I was trying. Right.
The man Oscar
The bookstore.
on 125th Street and 7th Avenue. The one when they pictured Malcolm in front of him speaking.
The
with
Tree
all
of
the-
Life.
Right, but
Wasn't it?
I don't-
The Tree
I
of
was-
Life?
I was
The
young.
bookstore?
All I know is I went by
Yeah, right.
there a lot.
Everybody used to go
I
back.
stopped in
Past
there, and he talked with me. And before I went overseas, like the experience you had, I had pretty much the same experience. But I had enough something to know. I went in there, and he gave me a whole series of books to read and the order in which to read them. And well, he gave me, I bought them. Like I used my money for the books too, and he gave me the process in which to read them. So I got in trouble in the service for being a reverse racist or whatever you want to call it. So yeah,
The same trouble.
but it was 125th
Marine
Street
Corps, same problem.
and 7th Avenue. That's gone now. That bookstore is pretty much gone. So you tell me all the time what the name of the man was all the time.
yeah, but I've lost some memory since that time.
Oh, but trust me, I know that thing.
I know what bookstore you're talking
All I
about.
remember is Chuck Fuller Nuts, the Lowe's Theater, and what's your name's church on the other side of Adam Clay Powell Senior's Church and the bookstore. Those are the four corners, right?
Okay.
So I know which name. Thank you. That was and my thing was the drums. For some reason, I went to that and started doing that, and I had to leave school too, so it's really like and doing the other thing too. My route was between Harlem and DC. So,
Route of what?
how do you call that? You termed it in such an elegant way. I forgot it. A dispensary
Medical
of
marijuana.
Yeah.
Provider.
Something.
Distributor.
I mean, it was such a nice way that you put it.
Yeah, I
I
gotta
was
say
like,
that's another thing too. So my friend was in the midst of doing his bit when it became legal, and that's so interesting because the only thing that changed that made it legal was the wording.
Right.
Nothing else changed. They just changed the wording. But
Just changed
see,
the word.
once again, it shows you how powerful words are.
That's right.
Yeah.
Nothing changed. They just changed the wording. Now, something did change. Now, white people control the business.
Oh, thank you.
Right.
In Detroit,
Same thing with the numbers.
some of the some of the biggest distributors were black people. That has changed. That has changed. Because one thing was that when it became legal. Now in Detroit, it's interesting. They have laws in Detroit so that if you have a conviction, you get a discount on your license.
I'm sorry, say that again.
If you have a marijuana felony conviction, they will still let you get a license. In fact, they will give you a discount on your license because they know that this shit don't make no sense. We got people been locked up for 50 years. Now we got people out here who's doing it for free.
Yeah.
You know, right? Doing and the exact same thing, nothing changed. Right? So there's so much so that like they went in and tried to recruit some of us. They said, okay, we want people who got skills in being a distributor.
Oh, yeah,
And you
yeah.
come in and get a business going.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
You got to be skeptical. You live with these folks. It's something that so what's starting to happen is this. People realize that you have to do both. You become legal and you still be illegal. Why? Because the legal, they put so much taxes on this stuff until it's going to be too expensive. So the people are saying, they're like, hold up, why should I go to the store when I got my friend? You know? So my friend, I get a discount plus I come in and sit a while.
Yeah.
You know? So they got, you know, this thing is like, we just let white people do anything to us. So they got this whole industry going for their benefit, right? You know? Because it's not for ours, it's for their benefit.
That's why it's legal and illegal.
Yeah, right.
Because they decided, oh, well, let's bring in the other guys that can say it's illegal, so you're not playing ball. But it's interesting.
They're gonna do the same thing with prostitution too.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they haven't.
They have.
Depends where you are.
What's the correct pronunciation of your name?
It's pronounced Bonotchi.
Bonotchi.
Right.
Thank you. And welcome once again. Glad you're here. Enjoyed going to every word that you spoke.
Thank you for last night. That drink was excellent.
Right. Don't have a question. Well, part of a question and an observation. I'd say roughly about 4 or 5 years ago, I participated in a march for Black Lives Matter here in Columbus, Ohio. And much to my surprise and chagrin, the white to black ratio of people participating in the march was no less than 8 to 1. 8 white people to 1 black person.
Yep, I found the same thing with the Black Lives Matter movement in Detroit when I went to a rally, something that they were having. I was surprised about the amount of white women who was included.
That was my name.
Well, there is a couple of problems, right? First off, what kind of fool would have an organization called Black Lives Matter? They don't. Our miseducation allow us to like, you know, say that. Black lives does not, and Black lives have never mattered in America for us. Black lives matter in America for abuse, right? I mean, even today, right? We don't own shit in our own neighborhoods. Other people use our neighborhood to make tons of money. Other people make money off us, but we don't. So, you know, it's once again, it's because of miseducation. The only reason we can have a movement called Black Lives Matter is because they've been so miseducated until they actually been fooled into thinking that black lives actually do matter. When anybody look at our history, could firmly know and understand black lives don't mean shit in America. They throw you away like candy. They just, black lives, that don't mean nothing. And you know, never have. But once again, it's a problem of miseducation. I can't say this enough. And you know, it's not new. Carter G. Woodson. Why have we let the valuable work of Carter G. Woodson just it has evaporated, disappears. It's not even in people's minds anymore. This was a pivotal book. Every school child, every black school child should read this book because you're being miseducated. It's not even a concept anymore. I took a class in school on black family development. I dropped it because I was gonna fail that class. It would have screwed up my grade point average. It was taught by a black professor, and of course, me and him, we went at it. I knew I had to drop this class. This idiot in class said that, like, because I questioned him about what he had said. He said that, like, the only way we would know if we would be better off being Africans if we went back and acted like slavery never happened and see what the results was. I told him that didn't make no damn. That's what I said. I said, a professor. That doesn't make any sense.
This was a professor?
This was a professor in class. I told you I dropped the class. Because this was the type, you know, so this is a black professor pushing this type of nonsense. So his whole point was that, listen, we're not that bad off. And if you just be humble and get a good job. Listen, the guy said he was a man of God.
There you go.
He's a Christian minister. He said he's a man of God. So that your focus should be on getting a good job.
That's right. And obeying.
That's right. Appeasing white people. So, you know, this is a black professor in a class called Black Family and Development. The class was geared to focus on the black psychologists, right? To teach them how to deal with the problem that the black family has. All of their solutions were be good, get a good job, and and be good. That's throughout the whole book. Now, you could, of course, they didn't make it that simply, but you could boil it down that simply because all of their solutions involve you never overtly confronting racism.
That's right.
It was always you got to go to do this, do that, but never overtly challenging racism or racists. I say, well, listen, this class is a waste of time.
Do you think anybody in that class before you left had an inkling of what you were saying to the person?
Yeah.
So
Most
that
definitely.
planted that seed.
Oh yes, I
Okay,
stayed
so-
long enough.
Okay. So that was
I
time.
waited until the last hour to drop because I wanted to spend as much time in that class as I could.
Okay.
But I know there's no way.
'Cause I'm finding
That was a class I could not pass because the subject matter I was too in opposition. When you read something all the time and you're in opposition to everything that that you're reading, that's not a good thing. So I know that I would not remember the information to pass the test because the information it was not engaging. So I took a test, I got a D, and I said, "Oh, this is not going to work," because the test was not hard at all. It was easy, but you had to read and absorb the information.
Change your.
And I couldn't do that.
That's right.
I was in too much opposition. So I never fully engaged in this class, which was a good thing. The professor, I think, was happy, that last day when I didn't show up, he knew, he dropped the class, but this is the last day, he won't be back. Now, interesting, I was in junior college, this was a long time ago, and I was in a philosophy class, and the professor asked this question. Well, anyway, the answer was he was trying to make the assumption that you couldn't prove things, right? And I told him that there was one thing I could prove, and that was that I exist. Now I told him I don't know about. I take it for granted that you do because I'm talking with you. But I said I know I exist, right? And he wanted to argue that, but you can't argue that. You can argue that to yourself, to someone else, to yourself, but you can't argue that someone else doesn't exist. You can say that about yourself, right? So I told him, I don't know about you, but I know I do, right? And he had to admit the same thing. Or I know he knew that as a person he exists. And so he told me after a few weeks, he said that I'll give you a B if you never come back to this class. You know, of course, I had read Stolen Legacy by George Jim James and stuff. And so I was I was not in that class. He did not like me. Every time he mentioned something about Greek, you know, I had read enough so that I could at least question him, you know. I didn't know enough to be oppositional, but I could at least question him at that point. And he couldn't answer those questions. Because, of course, he didn't know nothing about Africa or Egypt. So that was over his head.
Brother Bonotchi, I was abroad in Switzerland, Geneva, and I was walking down the street there, the main drag, one of the main drags.
I thought you said in drag. I'm just joking with you. Everybody know, my students know I have a sense of humor.
Is that what you call it?
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Nothing ever close to in drag. Ever.
I apologize.
Just so we're clear.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear. I'm clear.
One of the main bookstores there. I was walking by, and I just, happened to catch out on my periphery a copy of Malcolm X, the biography of Malcolm X. And I stopped, looked closer into the window, and I seen a copy of Eldridge Creed.
Yes.
So on.
So,
And I looked, and this is in the storefront windows. They had Fred Jackson's Soledad brother. And
yeah, George Jackson.
George Jackson.
Yeah, right. In Sweden.
No, Switzerland.
Switzerland.
Yeah. So I stayed there for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I started talking to some Swiss people there, and I brought that up, and they said, "Oh yeah, we're very familiar with Malcolm X and Stokely Carmichael and whatnot, and the Black Power movement." And went on to name different events and things that happened. And then they questioned me by saying, what we really don't understand is, Black Americans have so much at their disposal in the way of liberties.
Yep.
Why is it that we don't make better use of it? And I didn't have
Miseducation. That's
Wow.
Yeah, that's you're right. That's interesting.
So I was just interested, how is it that they, some 7,000 miles away, have a revolutionary spirit about our cause more so than we do?
Check this out. A friend of mine had a sister who was dating an Iranian, right? This was about 10 years ago. No, longer than that. I was in school. I was in, so anyway. So he gave her some stamps to give to me. They were Malcolm X. Iran had stamps of Malcolm X before the U.S. had it. So I kept these for a long time. I eventually lost them. But yes, so Iran had stamps honoring Malcolm X, and it blew our minds because we didn't realize he was that international.
Did you see what they did in Turkey?
No.
They renamed the street that the American Embassy is on?
No.
It's Malcolm X.
Oh wow! Don't worry.
About 2-3 weeks ago.
Don't worry. Wow. Trump gonna change that.
Look, I'd like to offer a geometric perspective on how it is we can have so many things at our disposal and not know how to use them. So, if you imagine yourself that you are part of this floor, and all that you have access to. Let's say you're in this spot on the floor, right? And you know, you see, you look that way, you see plenty of room. You look that way, you see plenty of room. All around you look, you see plenty of room. But somebody says, they draw a circle around you and says, you can't step outside that circle. And if you do everything in my power, because I have more at my disposal than you have at yours, I'm going to do to contain you within that circle. And after generation upon generation, now we'll go to Carter G. Woodson. What did he say? After you've been going to the back door for so long, if one ain't there, you'll go and cut one out just so you can walk through the back door.
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's where we're at. We're making our own back doors. They don't even have to do it for us anymore.
And that's not a back door in a good sense. We talking about the slaves then, because there was a time we used to make our own back doors.
So would you say their minds are freer than ours?
Undoubtedly. We are in a state of mental captivity, which also makes it physically, because mentality rules everything. Everything you do is based on some idea or concept that you have accepted as truth.
I remember when I was younger, we used to ride the bus, and back in the day, they used to make black people sit in the back of the bus.
Yes.
But it got to the point where they didn't have to make us. We went to the back of the bus. Mm-hmm. You got on the bus, all the black people was on the back of the bus. And this was in the 80s.
Oh, yeah, right. Same with for me, and I was growing up in Detroit, so we never really had official segregation like that, but people still knew that. We knew where your place was. Went to the back of the bus.
So if that is the case, conditioning having a large contribution towards being submissive, then what is a revolutionary or the sense of revolt born of?
What is it born of?
I mean, we're not the first group of people to be subjugated.
Yeah.
Throughout history by another culture.
Right.
And, someone stood up and said no at some point. Irrespective of if they're being the back door or not. Someone said no.
Right.
So what's it born of? And how do you tap into it?
Well, you don't. It's natural. It's unnatural not to fight back. So we have been so conditioned until we don't respond naturally. Right now, anybody in this room, if I walk up and hit you, I know what's gonna happen. No question. Right? Huh? No, I said in this room.
I don't know. It might be.
No. If I can look in this room, I wouldn't.
You don't see one?
I don't see anybody in here I would approach like that. I don't see no Christians in here like that. I don't see. If there are some Christians in here, they don't look that way. So my point is that it's natural. It's natural. So we have been so conditioned till we are doing things that are unnatural naturally. That's the best way I can put it. Because I repeat, nobody has to tell you how to respond when you're abused. You know how to respond. Kick their ass. Make them stop. That's it's that simple. So when you don't do that, you've been conditioned not to do it. And I repeat, that conditioning comes in school. That circle that Kwame was talking about, it's the nigger circle. As long as you are within the nigger circle, you can do anything you want to. Why? Because niggers are not a threat to white people. My statement is this. I say that people like to say that computer is the white man's greatest invention. That's a lie. Niggers are the white man's greatest invention. Not technology, not computers. They're wrong. Niggers are the white man's greatest invention. When he invented niggers, he invented a term, idea, and a social condition to convert a whole group of people for a white benefit. Now, for a time, we were climbing out of that condition. Now, we have made it such that our youth aspire and strive to fill that condition. They want to be a nigger. Even we've had what's the scholar's name? Eric Dyson. Eric Dyson says he's proof of what a nigger can be. What kind of, in other words, he's saying that, like, I'm showing you what you can do as being a product of white people. Well, that's a problem, because no sane people will accept the definition of who they are from their slave masters. And those that do the sick is sick. I don't care what degree you have, what you taught. If you accept the definition of yourself based on your slave master's definition of you, you're sick. So, Mr. Dyson, you got a problem, because niggers are the white man's greatest invention, because niggers are in self-check. So that means that Dyson, even with all this slick talk, if you examine his actions, he's going to be problematic, because being a nigger, you're going to do some things that would be against black nationalists. So that niggers, I find it interesting that they be on the opposite end of black nationalists. So I would be more happy if he said, I'm proof of what black nationalists can do for a black man. But not, I'm proof of what a nigger can be. He's saying that that's saying that, like, whatever white people have given me, I have used it. I haven't invented for myself, I did shit for myself, but what they have given me, I've taken, I did the best with it I could. So I'm a nigger, but I'm the best nigga you want to see. That's, it's like, how is it, how is that type of thinking has become acceptable for us? This dude is what? He's a nationally radio program, and he's one of the most noted black intellectuals out there. Who is this? Dr. Eric Dyson. Right, Dr. Well, you share a name with him, but that's about all. He is this guy. Eric, right?
No.
Keith. I keep calling you Eric. I called you Eric yesterday. Those two names got stuck in my brain. Keith. I got it straightened out. So if you was a student of mine, you would get one of my valued no prizes, because I screwed up twice. It's with you today. I called you the wrong name, and then I made a joke about it. So in the classes I have, I give out no prizes. So Kwame will probably receive more no prizes. Lona's not here. Kwame has probably received more no prizes out of their group. So of course, because there's no prizes, you don't have any proof of it.
Oh, but I do.
He talks about it.
So you can also tell that I used to read comic books quite a lot, because that's where the whole concept of a no prize come from. In the back of comic books, they would have you could send in questions, and the person who asked the best questions would always win a no prize. So I was proud when I was in a position that I could give out my own no prize. That's one of the honors of a teacher. So some food is heating up over there. Is that a sign of future things to come?
Yeah, that's where Mama Lona.
Oh, okay.
Perhaps you, not necessarily right now if you don't want, but share your concept with the family on functional symmetry.
Functional symmetry. Now, when we talk about mind is the Kemetic worldview is based on mind. Has been translated as truth, righteousness, that type of thing, right? Doesn't quite do it though, right? So that what we call functional symmetry, everything that you know is in relation to something else, right? So that is the symmetry. Everything that you do is related or based on something else. Now, it's functional because it's based upon, or the results of it, the function of it is based on your feelings, emotions, and thoughts and behavior. So all those things serve to symmetrize. That's not what I want. Serves to align things. Make things function so that, like, oh, that's what I was saying. It's natural. If I walked up and hit somebody, you're gonna hit me back. That's functional symmetry. When you do something, there's gonna be an expected response, and that's what gets lost, because we have been taught that we live in a world that's out there. So the world that's out there, that means that I go out there, I do what I want to it, because it's out there. With functional symmetry, that means that but hold up, it's out there, but I'm out there too. So when I push that, there's gonna be, it's pressure, right? If you push something, it's pressure. That's functional symmetry. That my touching it has a response. Everything works like that. So in Kemet, the natures are based on functional symmetry. That's what they are. So that the Necharu are often defined as family members, right? That's because they're volatile. They do stuff. So that in order to explain relationship, they would use something that all of us understand, and that is your family. So Wasir is the father, Aset is the mother, and Haru is the son. Because they can use these dynamics to explain everything, because everything is happening functionally and interactively. So in Kemet, what they show you is that the reality works off the concept of what I like to call functional symmetry, which is Ma'at. So that everything you do will have an effect on something else and yourself, and that something else is yourself. So the problem is that the European to see something else as the other. The other is you. But they see the other as not being associated with oneself. The other is you. So that, and you can see it. You can see it all the time. Once again, one of the best examples is Trump. Every time he says something about someone else, it's him. But once again, that's just an example. All of us do it. So a lot of times, especially in relationships, look at your mate and see how a lot of times you project out on your mate what you're doing or what you feel. But this is how everything works. We just haven't been taught, or I should say that the Europeans have made us think that it's me and then you. It's really just me in terms of you and me too. So if you look at it that way, then that me is not alone in opposition, because me and you are the same thing. We just looking at it from different sides of the fence. So when I'm talking, I'm the subject, but when you're talking, you're the subject. So that means that we're both the subject, though. It's just that we are taking turns, so to speak. But see, in the European, you have one the subject and the other one is the object. And of course, the object is always less important. So see, you have the subject and object. In meta-nature, you only have subject. There is no object, because everything is functional. So there is no object. Everything is subject. So that's what functional symmetry is. Well, that's one way to try to start to look at it and understand it. suffice, everybody? Did you get that understanding? I know that can be kind of difficult to get to.
Let's just say it's worthy of diving into, because last time we tried to talk about this, Elder Alona was holding us up. So, if Elder Alona understands it, then, that allows opportunity for other folks too.
And she's not here now, otherwise you would have gotten a response, most definitely.
So in the language, I understand there are terms that are assigned a masculine quality and feminine quality.
Yes. Yeah. Because everything has a dual function, so to speak. So that even though I am male, I also have feminine aspects. Simply because nothing is alone by itself. So that even though I focus, and my focus is, as a male, you have to understand the feminine aspect of yourself also. Now, the problem in Western society is that we tie everything into sex. Right. So when someone hears that, they say, they think it in terms of sexual.
Right.
And I'm not speaking of sexuality in no aspect.
That's what I was just doing.
So that difference is where that line is, of that we have to make that definite cross in order to understand things from an African-centered perspective.
Yes.
Because as soon as you say male or female, we all want that other Western thing in Sweden and Stockholm and them places.
Yes.
Norway, Germany, Britain, we going there.
Yes. Everything is based on sex. The sexual act.
Right.
The performance of sex. Right. Exactly. But
that's hard to be unprogrammed for a while.
age tends
I know
to help that somewhere.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Because as a young man, that's something it's hard to get a hold of. So it's interesting. I read a story about the indigenous people in Australia. They were speaking of that in their initiation ceremonies, that there was certain information that they would not give a person until they got gray hair, because the gray hair was a sign that their nervous system had become is mature enough to accept information and use it in a proper way. So I found that interesting. That's something that things like that we don't take into account. To us, you having gray hair is just a sign of old age. It doesn't mean anything about you being able to understand anything any better. It just means you're old. As a matter of fact, it tends to mean that you're infirm, that there's something wrong with you. But they were showing how that, like in those societies, there were certain emotional issues that you couldn't deal with until you got gray hair, because you didn't slow down enough to to comprehend them emotionally.
So since it got quiet, we want to take a restroom break before lunch. Which way is the restroom from here? Cleve, show everybody where the restroom is. That was just the warm up. All right, family, it was just a warm-up. You're going to have to come get the rest, right? We're about to do the toast, and then I'm going to get myself ready for the class, And hopefully some of y'all come out and support, because we doing good work out here. It would be a shame for it all to go to rest. So let's get this water song popping off and get ready for the toast. Alright, let me lean this up a little bit. We're going to do the toast. We're going to call those ancestors in. We're going to get it popping. And then we're going to see what we can do. Alright, let's see. First, I want to send shouts out to Sister Regina, Sister Lisa, Sister Callie, of course, Brother Junior, Sister Roni. Oh, my baby Keisha Harris was on here for a second. Is she still in the house? Let's see who else. Brother Junior, I seen you in there. Let's see. We got, who else? All right, but the toasters, a lot of toasters are here right now. So family, listen, without any further ado, I want to welcome you into the congregation of the mighty, the home of the stubborn minority, the place where your hustle builds muscle. This is Gye-Nyame Journey Media. Of course, this is a Heart of Simba production, and this is the Daily Toast. And it's Heart of Simba production. Did I say that already? But we strive to blow up your old paradigms. Y'all know to grab your glasses. We're about to kick it off. So while we taking the break, we're gonna go through the water song. Those that been here long enough, y'all know we do this. It's part of our meditation. It's part of how we get it together. Drink your water. Come on, drink your water. But first, take your breath and drink some water. Take your breath and drink some water. Take your breath and drink some water. Take your breath. Drink. Or should I say, breathe, then drink. Now, listen. Now grab your cup full of water. Get your bottle of that water. Twist the cap off that water. Simply pour some water. Drink. Or should I say, lift, pour, then drink. Now, move your body and drink some water. Now, move your body and drink some water. Move your body and drink some water. Family, move your body. Drink. Or should we say, move, then drink. Now raise your cup and toast your ancestors. Raise your cup and toast your ancestors. Raise your cup and toast your ancestors, fam. Just raise your cup. Drink. Or should I say, raise, toast, then drink. Now take your breath and drink some water. Lift and pour yourself some water. Move your body, drink some water. Raise your glass and toast your ancestors. Breathe, lift, move, toast. To stay healthy, remember, breathe, drink, eat, move. Drink half your weight in ounces. Eat a culturally appropriate diet, but hey, take your breath. Lift and pour. Move your body. Toast your ancestors. Drink up. Drink your water. Drink your water. Drink. Drink your water. Drink. Move your body. Toast your ancestors. Drink, family. Now listen, we had a warm up. Brother Bonotchi dropped it. That was just the informal meet and greet. So family, we are still in the place. We are right now at 3500 Refugee Road, also known as the Millennial Community School. Come on out and join us. We have an afternoon packed full of information, and you need to come out here and get some. As you can see, I'm gonna turn the camera around. We got the family in the place right now. We got a couple of seats left. I told y'all it's limited seating. Y'all think somebody playing with y'all, so go and keep on, go and stay out there and see what happens. Right? Y'all gonna have to come. Y'all have to come out here and get the rest of this, because I'm not. After this, I ain't posting no more. I might do an interview or two, but after this, I'm not posting up anymore. You got the warm up, so now come get the lesson. You're gonna talk about the importance of an African-centered education. How do we break down this nigger factory? You know what I'm saying? That's producing enemies to the cause. You know what I'm saying? Miss Kimberly, Miss Kim, Sister Kim says this is her favorite school community. So let's go and do this toast before the rest of the family come on in and we start doing a few other things. So now y'all see I got the dark ambrosia, I got the coffee ambrosia, and I brought it up here so that we can have, so I can, see how the family reacts to, because I don't know how many coffee drinkers we got in the house. You know what I'm saying? But why not have a healthy coffee drink? You know what I'm saying? So we about to go and kick it up here real quick. We're gonna pour these libations, and then we're gonna go and get into the lunch, because like I said, for the $10 you get a lunch and as well as get nourished on some of this wisdom that the brother's gonna drop. Now, I need to stress once again, we are at the Millennial Community School. Right now I am toasting live right here in the school. I got my little coffee ambrosia. I ain't bring the glass. I don't like traveling with the glass, but y'all know how we get down here. So let's go and do it. First off, giving honor to the Creator by whatever name you choose to call that Creator. We lift up our glass and we salute that Creator and we say, Ashe. From there, family, we move to our list of our ancestors, because it's important that we toast our personal ancestors that are a direct connection to the universe, that are a direct connection to everything, upon whose shoulders we stand, who have fought for us to have a place and a time. Back to, I'm gonna do the list. I'm trying to go learn the list by name, so I got a lot of stuff going on around me, so I'm gonna try to do it to the best of my ability. So first call on Miles Brown, Ms. Ann, Robert the Tech, Santa Davis, Herman Brown Sr., Rosalie Tilly, Georgia William Walter, Christopher Fanny Gasson, Aunt Lena, Uncle Chris, Aunt Fiend, Cleveland Geneva Brown, Margaret Ellis, Wash Ellis, Cecil Ellis, Alvaro Brown, Gina Gaines, Herman Brown II, Barbara Twiggs, Wash Ellis Jr., Katie Ellis, Nikki Ellis, Jamon Jones, Jeremiah Tappan, John Fallar, Montague Pimenel, Normal X, Sapet Maya Ram, Malika Fakour, Dr. Marianne Williams, Kojo Kamal Elder, Millie Dixon, Tony Clark, Pastor Yusuf Weston, Elder Ajani, Elder Ron Coleman, Elder Robert Donaldson, Alfred Brofro, Hector Jr., J. Edwards, Carlisle Harris, Grace Lundy, Inez Harris, William Bill Moss.
It's leaking.
William Bill Moss. Hold on. William Bill Moss. Phyllis Rose. Sterling and Lucy Wright. Derek L. Pullen. The Luxter brother. Miss Eda Brooks Crawley. Miss Marie. Let's just go off the list now. Gerard. Sterling and Lucy Wright, Derek L. Pulling, the Luxter brother, Miss Eda Brooks Crawley, Miss Marie Nelson, Mr. Frederick Crawley Sr., Miss Jerry Brunson, Mr. Alonzo Johnson, Miss Marie McDowell, Janice Foster, Charles Jordan, Kill Smith, Walter Smith, Richard Triggs, Francis Johnson, Mary Franklin, Jimmy Williams, Daniel Ford, George Gibson, Nana Loretta Clark, Inez McCray, Fritz Clark, Frankie Justice, Katie Justice, Derek Runderman, Virginia Rogers, Reverend James Smith, Louis Henderson, Calvin Spratling, Mayor Elizabeth Walker, Raymond Walker Sr., Sarah Jane Carter, Michael Ford Jr., Jalen D. Russell, Susie B. Smith, Lisa Clay, Melvin Dale Hodge Jr., Herman Copeland, Mildred Copeland, Jenny Clayburg, B.D. Sell Ware, Levita Farmer, Augusto Sue, Shell Harvey, Aunt Charmaine, Evelyn Theodis Hasbury, Harvey Hasbury Sr., Linda Dixon, T.C. Islam, Terrell Dunbar, Will Thomas, Sarah Berry, Mark Walsh, Merle B. Thornton, Pearl G. Thornton, Ida Johnson, Florence M. Carter, Joanne Thornton, Edgar Trisha Lewis, Juanita Wright, Robert Wright, George Wright, Mary Eliza Frederick Davis, Mary Elizabeth Rogers, May Esther Keachler Reese, Linda Watson Hammonds, Joel Giles Watson, Spells, Slimmy Selma Lewis, Andrew Holmes, Pearl Moore, Percy Moore Jr., Mitchell Orange, Booker T. Bowden, Charlie Hunt, Sammy Stober, Peter Pearson, Sturgeon Thornton, Richard Thornton, Lavina Hall, Freeman Bankster, Mae Moss, Sophia Peacock, Willie Thornton, Napoleon Kenty, Mark Ramsey, Paul Ramsey, Matt Ramsey, David Ramsey, Charles E. Thornton, Frankie Quills, Urania Thornton, Bernie Squills, Ernestine Jackson, Frankie Johnson, Teresa Mormon, Leon Johnson, Charles Bell, Vivian Ramsey, S.C. Johnson, Del Rita Johnson, Leon Johnson, James W. West Sr., James Parham, Dana Jones, Henry World, James Farmer, Mary Chavez, Leon Grace, Bessie Johnson, Hattie Levester, Mary Moreland, Paul Moreland, Elder Caleb, Rosemary Martinera, the Amatep Wellman, Fred Douglas Triggs Sr., Thelma Triggs, Thomas and Lula Berry, Lacey Ellen Ohio, Frank Russell and Davis, Fred Douglas Triggs II, Vina Triggs, Reverend Eddie Moore, Helen Fuller, Eugene Jackson Sr., Richard Ellis, Silas Alexander, Charles Maxwell, Percy Alexander, Arthur Wendell, Stanley Lockhart, Ricky Lockhart, William Lockhart, Woodrow Lockhart, Brenda Porter, Deacon Hargrove, Carla Sawyer, Andrew Parker, Doris Donald, Ellis Murphy, Tamika Russell, Didi Monares, Gina Rose Jones, Jana Callahan, William Walter West, Nigel Paris, Elder Basiji Falani, Jim Robinson, Gladys Johnson, Valerie Clark, John and Mary Sullivan, Dirk Johnson, Antonio Johnson, Elise Waters, DePretis Hines, Dennis Bostic, Edna Bostic, Winifred Scannell, Barry Wilson, Haley, Emma Hines, Phyllis Lee, Eugene Spratling, Kevin Spratling, Charles Wooden, Penny Brown, Roy Lee, Pritt Up Jr., Miriam Johnson, Wilbur Longmire, Ida Cadney, Janice Carter, Michael Carter, Leon Peanut Carter. Leon Peanut Carter, where we are? Leon Peanut Carter, Margaret Carter, William Carter, Lisa Jordan, Charles Lee Mosley, Dorothy R. Blair, Ransom Evans. Where we at? Lost my place again. Swan Stevens, Ransom Evans Sr., Sam Evans Sr., Naylon Blair, Edward Stevens, Swan Stevens, Joe Davis, Timothy Butler, Gene Holmes, Dana Jones, Peter Charles, Christy Nichols, Cardinal Robinson, Rosemary Charles, Eda Pearl, Bob Ingalls, Jack Wallace, Warren M. Finch, Warren P. Finch, Tim Ingalls, Audrey Finch, William Billingsley Jr., Jennifer Sensabaugh, Hazel Gaston, Jerry Bradley, Brian Watson Jr., Kaniko Parsons, Jason Kathy Bradford, Thomas Bradley, also known as Uncle Buki, also known as Gypsy, Reverend Roosevelt Word I, Stacey Trice, Frank Smith, Mother Bertha, Michael Leonard, Dave Brown, Ruth Carter, June Cox, Ruth Cox, Paula Cox, Lana Irving, Judy Hubbard, Irene Johnson, Francis Booth Jefferson, Dan Wilkinson Sr., Emma McClendon, Jerry Doyle, Amina Robinson, Mary Nichols, Patricia Williams, Shabaka Teray, Greg G2 Gibson, Donna Hill, Richard Gleavis, Lee Irby, Tommy Irby, Boy Irby, Jim Gaucher, George and Hallie Johnson, Archie and Margaret Armstead. Hold on. Let's go back. Shabaka Teray, Greg G2 Gibson, Donna Hill, Richard Gleavis, Lee Irby, Tommy Irby, Boy Irby, Jim Gaucher, George and Hallie Johnson, Archie and Margaret Armstead, Don Scott, Edgar Armstrong, Claire Fox, Gene Evans, Archie Beck, Anna McGill, Charles McDaniel, Christine Cottrell, Aunt Becca, Alice Arnold, Arthur Arnold, Hattie Reed, Charles Reed, Eula and Andrew Baker, Patricia and Edwin Brooks, Gwendolyn and Bob Hash Kimball, Vernon Bradley Kim, Janie Harriet Tubman McCain, Spencer Sturgis, Sally Mae Baker, Ethel Baker, Creola Baker, Geneva Baker, Aaron Nino, Baby Hatchet, Senior Mally Miller, Housey Hashtag, Cleveland, Mother Gibson, Alex Nixon, John Bowie, Lester and Rachel Saunders, Doretha Ross, Riola Ross, Robert Nelson, Francis Stevens and Leroy Stokes, Neely Johnson, Fletcher Swan, Maddie and Charlie Scott, Ida Casey, Tom Vivian Stevenson, Mona Ann Lewis, Cornetta Lyman Lewis, John Jackson, William Dallas Lewis, Mary France Chappelle Jackson, Michael Slade, Joanne Perkins, Richard Jackson, Martha Ford Dawson, Big Mama, Nanny Harris, Eva Ford, James Harrison, Margaret Towns, Mary Williams, Leroy Q. Heath Sr., Albert Moore, Miss Vanilla, Alvis Motley, Geraldine Elizabeth, Douglas Thompson, Erton Houston, Lud Alls, Elijah Alls, Jerome Alls, Henry West Staten, Joe Jamel Alls, Ann Pierce, Donna Carter, Lily Green, Nathan Green, Beth Vaughn, John Dewey, Ruth Beard, Tim Butler, Remy Laura Newton, J.B. Foggy, Thomas Newton Sr., Barbara Naeem, Jeanette Sanders, Jerry C. Sanders, Roy Pruitt, H.J. Brantley Sr., Henry Wilson, Rufus Jenkins, Minnie Wilson, Kathleen Sanders, Muriel Ellis, Elizabeth Sanders, Henrietta Irby, Mildred Armstead, Margaret Armstead, Catherine Anthony, Ruby Brown, Charles Walker Sr., Charlie Walker, Cecil Russell, Diane Irvin, Haroon Phillips, William Ford, Margaret Logan, Phyllis Barnett, Lee Irvin Sr., Michael Irvin, Ozella Watson, Hugo Watson, John Carwell Sr., Robert Lee Carwell, Nevaeh Mitchell, Ron McCormick Sr., Sabrina Easy, Rashawn Easy, Javea McCormick, Barbara Ann Reed, Dorothy Ann Reed, John Reed, Shekhar Maha Reed Jr., John Reed Jr., Patricia Reed, Edward R. Benson Sr., Ethel H. McNair, Lois Fernandez, Jacqueline Broaders, Reginald Oliver, Mazarine Coker, George Swan, and Montague Gates Grayson, Charles Scott, Charles H. Scott, Michael Morgan, Charlene Morgan, Sybil Edwards McNabb, Annie Ferguson, William Ferguson, Shelby McClendon. All right, let's move on. We have Joella Giles, James Carswell, Roberta Adams, also known as Aunt Sis. We got Elder Shaka McNair, Anthony Brown, Jonathan Ford, Lottie Gaucher, Cousin Tony, Michael Johnson, James Jimmy Johnson, Barbara Shang, Lewis Ronald Shelton Jr., Damian Top, Westina Banks, Joseph Bingham, Quincy, Mama, Aunt Lady, Abraham Isaac Cunda, Von Barbara Lewis, Renee Johnson, Joy, Ryan Ross Wiggins, Jamonte, Marcus Price, Ness Words, Marshawn McHale, Demetrius Beard, Herb Jefferson, Ralph Nichols, Eric Walker, Quincy Sample, Candace Simmons, Severin Clayton, Leonard Jones, Sade Garner, Melvin Scott Sr., Etta Clarence Snuck, Elizabeth Johnson, Frank Smith, Stacey Trice, Denise Goray, Nathaniel Hassan Turner, Khalid is in transition, Nigel Turner, Demetrius Lewis Flynn, Albert Woods, Geneva Simmons, Daniel Tilley, Angeline Gann, Sharifa, Oscar Kane, Arjun Gipper, Dominique Nichols, Ruthie Lane Johnson, Teresa Sambu, Aunt Maxine, Uncle James, Henry Monger III, Tamara Dottie, Nicole Hayes, Julia Taylor, Richard Bozeman II, Ruth Carter, John Carter, Mr. Thornton, Johanna, Deshandra Lynette Lewis, Henderson Mosey, Charles Jordan, Henry Essex II, Fannie L. Webb, Dan Walton, Al Alti, Sue Walton, Emma Walton, James Randolph Giles, Sonny, Pete Walton, William Walton, Fred Powers. Man, that food smelled good. Along with that ambrosia. Elijah Juan Hakeem Nkrumah, Alberta T. Davis, Charles Davis, Willie R. Mackey, Dr. Creamy Mackey, Victor Bowden, Priscilla Kitty Berger, Lucy White, Robert Lee White, Emma Jean White Talton, Roger White, R.L. White, Jesse White, Ruby Jewel White, Johnson Carl White, Desi Woods, Gilar Woods, Lennox, Jim Woods, Lizzie Woods, Juanita Alexander Brown, Cynthia Ann Wright, Richard Dorsey, Annie Simpson, Jamara Simpson, Regina Hawkins, Joseph Simpson, Nettie Dorsey, Eleanor Hopkins, Edward Webster, Alice Webster, Ivy Webster, Arnilla Willis, Ethel Lane, Samanda Damon, Ethel Marshall, Steve Dougie Shelton, William Bill Walker, Carl Rico Johnson, Kim Gray, Stuart A. Johnson, Edward Young III, Isaac Jackson Sr., Drusilla Merle, Wayne Young, Christina Young, Thomas Young, Frank Merle, Sylvester Foster, James and Lizzie Winston, Abe and Julia Lawrence, Ozell Leathers Sr., Gladys Coffer, Ozell Leathers Jr., Geneva Jackson, R.J. Lacey, also known as Toot the Darn. We got Xavier Winston, and we got Chris Kinney. Family, we raise our glass to all of our ancestors, celebrating all of them because we stand upon their shoulders. We raise our glass or our cup and we say, Ashe. From then, family, where do we go? You know where we go. We go to the present moment. Right now, family, we are on Kuumba. Once again, we conquered the weak. We colonized it. We took it back. Hell with that. We took what was ours. We took it back. So today we are on Kuumba. So we raise our glass in salute of Kuumba. We want to send out a round of applause for all of the Kuumba babies in the house. Let's see. There we go. When I travel, I'm on a budget. I ain't got the loud crowd with me. So, you know, we got it. And y'all get it for a second. So, being on Kuumba, the challenge today, family, I'm going to ask you to get out and seek. Get out and seek. Listen. Seek out Kuumba. Activate those reticular formations. Get out there. Find Kuumba. It's active in our community. We have to make it part of our daily task to get out and find our principles. In particular, the principle today. The principle today is Kuumba, which means, for those that don't speak the language, means creativity. We are in the moment of creativity, so we want to salute creativity. We want to find the creativity out there. We want to celebrate the modern principle of order. We got the color orange. I look so good in the red. I put on the red. I got the wrong thing, but I got on the orange Daily Toaster shirt. Just so that y'all know I'm in line, I'm in order. We got that orange Daily Toaster shirt on today. Cause and effect. Cause and effect is the Hermetic law today that we celebrating. The male name for the day is Kwame. Shouts out to all the Kwames and shouts out to all the Amas. You deserve it, you deserve it, you deserve it. All right, so family, now we move, we raise our glass up to the present moment because all we have is the present moment. The question I'm asking you right now is, what are you doing with your present moment? Right now, we're gathered here and we're about to do some learning. We're going to do some intensified learning. We're going to push the bar forward as far as our mind, change the mind state so that we can move from where we are to where we need to be. Start fighting for what it is that we need. Of course, y'all know I'm always talking about reparations, so I'm gonna take any information I get and I'm gonna connect it back to my major driving idea, right? That's important to me, the thing that's important to me. So everything that I listen to, everything that I read, I'm connecting it back to what's going on with us in the moment, right? Because I have to be able to use everything to empower the moment because I have a responsibility to lay down a foundation for my children, my children's children, onto infinity. And if you're on our list, your children are included when I say my children, right? So we raise our glass up to the present moment and we say, Ashe. From there, family, where do we go? You ready? You ain't ready. From there, we move to our children, our children's children, onto infinity. We raise our glass, we raise our cup, and we salute our ancestors. We salute our children's children onto infinity, and we say Ashe. From there, family, from there, you know where we go? I'm about to tell you right now. We go to all of our relations, because we are related to everything. We raise it up, and we salute, and we say Ashe. From there, we move to that selfish toast. It's all, I ain't gonna say it's all about you, because if it is no you, there's no we. You know what I'm saying? I am because we are because I am. So I salute you, and then salute you, I salute me, right? So I'm giving you that selfish moment. What do you need to move toward the greater you? We raise a cup, and we say Ashe. Last but not least, family, last but not least, I want to toast the most magnificent, the most beautiful, the most uplifting, the most outstanding, the supreme individual in the room right now. I raise my cup to you. With that, we say Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. I wish you peace, power, and joy. 100 years, and as we say in Gye-Nyame, say on the bottom of the shirt and on the bottom of the shoe. Look at that. Yeah, I got the shoulder, right? Look at that there. Can't end, family, because it's our thing.
It's our thing.
It's our thing. Don't you forget, it's our thing, right? So, I'm raising my cup. Let's go and try this coffee ambrosia and see what it's like. Okay. Okay. Alright. Hey, it's ages. You know. Hey, I'm digging it. I can live with it. I'm gonna live with it. I'm gonna love it. So I'm about to put it out here so family, if you come out, you get some free samples. I got some ambrosia up here, some regular original ambrosia, and I got that coffee ambrosia that you go on and sip on a little bit. Let me know what you think. Is it something I should keep, something I should throw away? That's all up on you. Now, so we're going to be starting soon. But family, listen, I need y'all to know, I ain't streaming the rest of this. You're going to have to come on out here and get this. You're going to have to come out in the cold just like the rest of us. Come out here and get this, because I'm not giving this, you're not getting this for free today, right? You might get a couple of little snippets here and there. But you know, I wanted to make sure that y'all know that the warm-up, we got the cups.
Yeah, I got some other cups, but she got some right here. So.
Oh, them too big.
I got some small ones. He's going to get them.
You got just wait a half a cup.
Let me see one of those cups.
But you know what? What's on this? Somebody be here.
That's what her grandson do every time he comes.
He's supposed to be
He on the floor.
You can get unhappy.
Listen, this is what they was talking about, sample cups. We ain't doing that here. This ain't a sample cup. So, let's get it.
Yeah, I was trying to wind it up.
Maybe it's the cup. Let me see something. That wood. That wood don't do well with ambrosia. Let's see. Hot damn.
It came from a tin pan. Okay, come on, Von got his stuff.
Woo! Put it over there by the ambrosia, my friend. It's the wood that kind of took some of the savor out the flavor. All right, so I'm gonna turn around so you can join the rest of the family. But in a couple minutes, where is that? But in a couple minutes, y'all have to come. Y'all have to have your face in a place to get what's going on here. Hot damn. All right. So the cup messed it up for me. Let's go on and do a little bit of that. Hold on for a second. Let me see if I can get some money on here.
Did you see one? Is it coming?
We're about to go get it. See you.
Oh.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Brother Bonotchi right here. Get the ambrosia out the way. So he was the gentleman that y'all was listening to and y'all was asking questions to. Why should they come out for the lecture this afternoon? Because we cutting it off. So y'all got the meet and greet, but y'all got to come out here and meet this brother in person. Why should they come out here, sir?
Well, we're giving you some information that you would be hard pressed to get anyplace else. They have made it such that people who talk positive information about black people that you don't hear from us anymore. So that in this lecture you're going to hear a version of African history and philosophy that's going to be hard to find. So I have been trained and taught by some of the best African-centered scholars in the world. I've been a member of ASCAC, and through ASCAC, I've been able to have access to some of the greatest black minds in the world. People like Dr. Ben, Dr. John Clark, Asa Hilliard, Jacob Crothers, Wade Noble, Dr. J from New York. So it's just been a ton of people that I have studied from. So what I've tried to do over the years is to synthesize this information and put it in a form for us to use as social constructs so we can have intelligent ideas to combat the white supremacy that we are constantly bombarded with through the media.
So y'all heard that, right? Y'all better get ready. Y'all better come out. We about to start eating, and we're gonna let Brother Bonotchi get back to what he was doing. But I'm gonna thank you, sir.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh man, we're about to have a good time. So y'all don't miss it.
Peace.
Okay.
Oh, he's done.
Thank you.
Okay.
Gye-Nyame's Journey Media.
Your interviews, what you gonna do? So you can come on at what?
We out, family. What's up?
You got it.
Everybody I think has paid.
Work in the kitchen. I don't even know.
Yes. Everyone is paid.
You don't assume. You don't assume. Ask the question.
I mean, you're the one who knows how to do that best for me, huh? Oh, so as Keith,
First of all, welcome back.
Yeah.
Glad you had a safe trip.
yeah, oh, thank you.
We out.
Thank you for coming.